One of the key recommendations of Victoria's inquiry into sexual abuse by religious organisations will be that property trust laws be reformed to enable people to sue churches. The prediction comes from legal researcher Judy Curtin, who has made numerous submissions to the inquiry on behalf of abuse victims. And ahead of committee hearings this week in Ballarat, where dozens of male abuse victims have taken their own lives, there are calls to fast-track support services to stop more deaths. Hamish Fitzsimmons reports.
Victoria's inquiry into sexual abuse by religious organisations has been repeatedly told victims of sexual abuse by the Catholic Church have few legal options because the only legal entity the Church has are property trusts. It's believed the inquiry will recommend change.
It is going to recommend some legislative reform or amendments to the Property Trust Act for the Church.
Legal researcher Judy Curtin has made submissions to the inquiry on behalf of abuse victims and believes property trust reform recommendations will be a key part of the committee's final report.
It will give victims equal access to justice in the sense that at the moment they can't sue the Church. They can't sue the Church in the courts because there is no legal entity for the Church that can actually be sued.
The property trust laws have existed for more than a century and apply to most churches. The Catholic Church says they serve a worthwhile purpose.
They work well. They allow the various parishes to hold their churches, their schools, their parish halls, and that's what they're there for, and they continue to perform that function very effectively as far as we're aware.
Others don't think the trust arrangements are fair to victims.
Victims and survivors have to go and search for bishops or past priests and individuals to be held accountable. Now that's not good enough. If the Church wants to live in a 21st century society, it needs to follow the rules and have a 21st century structure, and that means being a corporate identity that can be held accountable.
In 2007, the High Court supported a New South Wales Supreme Court ruling that churches could not be held legally liable for abuse cases because the Church doesn't exist as a legal entity, and so it's not liable for its priests or their actions. It's called the Ellis defence.
The law in Australia at the moment is that a property trust cannot be sued because the trustees of that trust were never responsible for the behaviour vis-à-vis the sexual assaults of the priests. The property trust was designed solely to manage the assets and the wealth of the Church.
The Church says connections between the trusts and alleged abusers are difficult to establish, and it says it doesn't shirk taking responsibility.
The Church recognises that we have a moral responsibility to assist victims in whatever way we can, and so wherever it's been established that a victim has been used by someone within the Church, our processes towards healing and the Melbourne response provide very generous assistance beyond anything that might ever be able to be demonstrated as a legal liability.
New South Wales Greens MP David Shoebridge tabled a bill in 2011 to reform property trust laws in his state. It didn't pass. He believes Victoria is in the position to set a legal precedent.
The Church needs to be held legally accountable. This is a great opportunity for Victoria to take the first step and then for every other state and territory to follow.
Victoria's parliamentary inquiry will move hearings to Ballarat this week. The town is an epicentre of abuse cases from the St Alipius and St Patrick schools decades ago by a small core of priests and brothers, some of whom have been convicted for their crimes. At least 40 men who were sexually abused have taken their lives. Others live with the consequences.
The day I actually decided to take my life, my wife said to me that morning, she said, I just want you to know that I'm proud of the way you're dealing with this. I'd sooner the kids have a father that's has a difficult time in life and will do whatever it takes to get through it than to have a dad that gives up.
Mr Blenkiron says many survivors wait too long for support services, and he wants a pathway for recovery like those for car accident or work injury victims.
I call it CRI, church-related injury, and it speaks for itself. I think it should be run by the government and paid for by whichever religious body was responsible for that abuse.
Peter Blenkiron has stood on the precipice of despair and says victims should get on the path to being a survivor sooner rather than later.
It's like a time bomb ticking. If you can defuse the bomb, the fallout's minimal. If the bomb goes off, then you'll spend the rest of your life picking up pieces of shrapnel. But there's hope, there's hope. The sooner you get onto it, the better your chances are.
Church abuse survivors will present their stories in Ballarat on Thursday. Hamish Fitzsimmons, Lateline.
Asbestos is a major hazard as authorities clean